have a forklift come in, puncture my pallet full of oil, but that's okay. But a clear hydraulic fluid oil, we can't have that. Oye, el tipo lo dejé y called me back. He goes, I'll call you back. Permit is approved. Other than this one, is there one more or two more? The parking ordinance? We have 14. I can do it.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair, it's 6:31, ready to go.
Good evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Through the chair,
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated.
through the chair, I'm going to go ahead and call roll. Board Member Julia. Present. Board Member Rodriguez.
Here.
Board Member De La Sierra.
Present.
Board Member Cruz. Absent. Vice Chair Senra.
Present.
And Chair Leoncio.
Present.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, the first order of business would be to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes. I second.
Okay, taking roll for the approval of minutes. It was motioned by De La Sierra. It was seconded by Senra?
Senra.
Okay, perfect. Board Member Julia? Yes. Board Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Board Member De La Sierra?
Yes.
And Board Member Cruz is absent. Vice Chair Senra?
Yes.
And Chairman Leoncio?
Yes.
Okay. The motion passes to approve the minutes.
Mr. Leoncio, the next matter would be to open public comments for any items not related to the quasi-judicial items that are going to be heard tonight.
I think you missed something in the agenda.
So, I think we need through the chair to the clerk, I think we need a point of order. There's two sets of minutes. There's one for March and there's one for April. So I think we should, I would call for us to recall the roll and bifurcate the motion as to approve the minutes for March and then approve the minutes for April. If that's okay with the chair.
Okay, in order for continuity here, the minutes, we're going to recall the roll for the March 11th minutes of the P&Z board meeting. So, Board Member De La Sierra,
Yes.
Board Member Julia,
Yes.
Board Member Rodriguez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Senra,
Yes.
Chairman Leoncio,
Yes.
Okay, the minutes have been approved for March 11th. And moving on to the minutes for the April 8th board meeting. Board Member Julia,
Yes.
Board Member Rodriguez,
Yes.
Board Member De La Sierra,
Yes.
Vice Chair Senra,
Yes.
and Chairman Leoncio.
Yes.
Okay, the minutes for April 8th have been approved.
Next would be just to open public comments for anyone that would like to talk on the items that are not related to the quasi-judicial public hearing items.
Mr. Attorney, according to the agenda, you have an election today.
Yes, but we skipped it because we did the approval of minutes. I would just do the public comments and then we can circle back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want to open the public comment. Anybody that's going to speak on behalf of any of the items, please stand and be sworn.
Not on the items that are before you. Anything else other than the items?
Or any other items.
And through the chair, there's no public comments online either.
You can close public comments if you'd like, Mr. Chair.
Close public comments.
All right, going back to what Member Rodriguez mentioned, there are elections this evening. And so, as you know, this is a public meeting, so there's no private ballots. Everything has to be out in the open. What would be, is the way that this has usually been handled is one of you would nominate someone to elect, to serve in the role of chair. So we'll take the roles of chair first and then vice chair. If that person, and then there would be a second. If that person then would have to accept, and if they accept, then there would be a roll call. If the person doesn't accept, then another person can be nominated, and so on and so forth.
I was going to nominate Homero Cruz, but since he's not here, then my nomination is void.
The person has to be present.
They should be present.
Yes.
Should be present. Then I nominate Mr. Senra for
Ooh.
the chairman.
That would require a second.
I'll second it.
Okay? And I assume you accept, Mr. Sender.
Yeah, I guess so.
So we would need a roll call.
Correct. Okay, in the nomination for chair, Leoncio selected Senra, and we was seconded by De La Sierra. So we'll go ahead and call official roll now for the chair for Fred Senra. Board member De La Sierra,
Yes.
board member Julia,
Yes.
board member Rodriguez,
Yes.
now current, well, can't vote for himself, correct? Oh, Vice Chair Senra,
I guess yes.
and Chairman Leoncio.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, the motion passes, and congratulations, Mr. Senra, you're now the chair.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, now I believe we would need to, congratulations, vote for the vice chair. So we need a nomination for the vice chair.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Nelson Rodriguez for vice chair.
I'll second that.
I'd be happy to do
Well,
it.
he has to accept first.
I'd be happy to help. Thank you.
Okay, taking the roll for the nomination for vice chair, which was selected Nelson Rodriguez by Robert Julia, and seconded by Fred Senra. Board member De La Sierra,
Yes.
board member Julia,
Yes.
board member Rodriguez,
Yes.
here, current chair Senra,
Yes.
and board member Leoncio.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes, and congratulations, Vice Chair Nelson Rodriguez.
Thank you, gentlemen. I
Congratulations.
hear that it's a hand-me-down.
You probably should move around,
Yeah.
however you wish.
Yeah, we
Mr.
can
Chair.
leave the same.
You can say the same.
Yeah, we'll just
sure.
stay where we are.
You
Stay
can.
where we are. Next time we'll
Okay.
we'll move around.
So, Mr. Chair, Senra, and Mr. Leoncio, thank you for your service on the board.
Hey, you're done already? You're done?
He's done.
Chair Sandra, if I may read also the quasi judicial public hearings and move into that. And then before I do that, I think that the applicants and whoever is going to be providing testimony should be sworn in.
I'm gonna have to recuse myself from the next item.
Okay, we'll get into that, and then I'll mention that if you have to. If anybody who needs to recuse themselves or would like to enter quasi judicial, when I get to that point, if you need to recuse yourself, Member Leoncio, you may do so. Okay?
All right, anybody present for the Natalie Santos that is going to be speaking? You need to step up and be sworn in.
Actually,
Mr. Chair, I
All
would
of
I would suggest swearing everybody in at the same time.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's swear everybody from the other case too.
Yes, for those of you providing public testimony regarding the items presented, I will be swearing you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Okay, you may be seated. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next step would be if anyone has any ex-parte communication or needs to recuse themselves, one by one, you may do so at this time.
Okay. Leoncio, Mr. Leoncio.
We can wait until Mr. Leoncio leaves the room and then continue.
Having only four members,
yeah.
we have
You mentioned the
quorum.
part
Yes.
we mentioned public hearings, public comments. If anyone else has any ex-parte communications or needs to recuse themselves at this time, now would be the time.
I have no
I know
communication.
Ozzy.
Mr.
but I
Attorney, I
just
have
know
no
him.
communication.
I don't know anything about it.
Let's do it one at a time.
Oh, for-
From Mr. De La Sierra.
I know Ozzy, but we haven't discussed the case. I just know him.
That shouldn't be, I have no objections.
Yeah, no, I don't have any communications.
Zero communications.
So at this time, I'm going to read in the public hearings. Please be advised that the following items on the board's agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made after the applicant and staff have made their presentation on each item. For purposes of this meeting, the staff will go first, and then you'll have an opportunity to present your case. So if you'd like to take a seat, for the moment, you'll be called up soon. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the board to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for that organization. Any persons presenting documents for the board should provide the town clerk with a minimum of 10 copies. Further details of the quasi-judicial proceeding may be obtained for the clerk. At this time, the first matter before you is VARH 2025-0091 for Folio 32, 2023-008-0510. The applicant is Natalie Santos, and the property location is 7100 Miami Lakeway South. And Mr. Chair, we will first hear from the town of Miami Lakes.
Hello, good evening. This is Justin Telleria, Planning and Zoning, Town of Miami Lakes. This case is VARH 2025-0091. The applicant's name is Natalie Santos. And for those who weren't here last time, she was postponed from the previous Planning and Zoning hearing. And the address is 7100 Miami Lakeway South. And she is requesting a variance from section 13-426 to allow a 30 by 50 addition to the existing home with a 10-foot setback from the rear property line where 25 feet are required. She is requesting the extension to the house. This would encroach 15 feet into the rear setback. And at the moment, staff recommends denial of the proposal. And additional information, there's a current code violation, C 2024-1701 for hat racking. And she was previously granted a variance for a fence at 12 feet 6 inches from the setback where 15 feet are required. And that is all at the moment.
Any questions for the town staff?
No, I don't have any.
I have one question. So looking at the, so her fence on the north side is already in a variance?
I believe it's the east side, along the side street right there.
Leaning Pine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's the second front side, is that? Because her door goes to Miami Lake Way, right? Correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Mm.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we can now hear from the applicant, if you wish.
All right, so now please, the applicant, please step forward. State your name, address. Okay, thank you. I think the microphone may not be on.
Press it at the shaft of the microphone. There you go.
Oh, now it's green.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I got a variance for the fence, and I pushed the fence in even more closer into my house because it was drawn incorrectly when I did the variance application. So, but I wanted to do the addition, and I have other properties, you know, that have examples that are way beyond the 25 feet. And like you said, I have, so my house faces Miami Lakeway South. If I was to face on the other street, then I would be fine with the addition. It just happens to be so that, you know, my property has a weird shape. And there's also a pool, so really the only place I can do the addition is on that side. So that I can, you know, right now my house is small and I have a lot of extended family, and if they come over, there's nowhere to sit. My husband's also in a wheelchair. He has ALS. He can't travel through the house. So right now he's at my mother-in-law's. He can't even come visit because his chair doesn't fit. So that's why that's why I got into the whole deal of making this addition. You know, and there's another ordinance, which is number 0457, which allows you to have an accessory building, and you can go up to 5 feet from the rear, and you can be 10 feet from your house. So it doesn't make sense to me that I can build a whole, like another building in my yard, but I can't do this addition because it has to be 25 feet from the rear. Like, this ordinance that I'm reading doesn't make sense with the other ordinance, because I could do a pool house and it could be 5 feet from the yard. You can even do like a deck, and you can go, almost to the rear of the yard, and so let's see, if the addition was smaller, I could still take my roof all the way back to only be 5 feet from the yard. So it's like, I don't think it's a big ask, is what I'm saying.
I have a question. Ms. Santos.
Go ahead.
Ms. Santos, on the previous approval for the fence that happened several years ago, after the fence reached the back of your house, where we allowed you to have this space so that you would be able to service your windows and walk down the edge of the house, from that point further back, all the way to the back, you were supposed to bring it in. But I see you only did it at the very end. You did a little 45, it's like about a 15-foot area that you did. And there was supposed to be, once you cleared the house, you were supposed to, at an angle, go all the way back and meet the 15 feet. But I see with the drawings here, you didn't do that. What you did is you went back all the way straight, and then at the very end, the last 5 or 6 feet, you moved over to the 15 feet line. Is there any reason why you didn't follow the instructions that we asked you to do?
The way that it was drawn, I gave it to the person that did the fence, and they did the bevel where it was supposed to be. So
Did you give what the zoning board asked you to do to the person that did the fence?
I did, and even after the holes were made for the fence, I forget the gentleman's name. He's here. He works in the city. He's like the main. He's in charge of all the inspectors. Is an American gentleman. He went out there and he says that I could have put my fence closer to the street, that I put it too in because of the way that it was drawn. So I was supposed to measure from the outside of that sidewalk and not from the inside of the sidewalk. So my fence is too in anyways. I could have made it come out more, according to the director in building.
Well, I see that there's 16 feet, 16.8 feet from the edge of your house to the edge of the sidewalk. And the surveys are all to the sidewalk. Surveys are all to the edge of the sidewalk of your property. The sidewalk belongs to the city. And I'm looking at 16 feet, 8 inches, and we had allowed you to have 3 feet away from your house, because it was only 16 feet. You had only had a foot, 1.8 feet. So we allowed you to have the 3 feet, actually 4, I believe, is what we agreed on, all the way to the back of the house, and then at an angle to meet the 15 feet away.
I gave the plans to the person, and that's the way they understood it from what was drawn. And then when I even had the inspection done, the inspector told me, which is, I don't know his name, he's not the normal inspector, he's in charge of the whole building department. He told me that I could have pushed it closer to the sidewalk. So I think, I'm thinking my fence is where it should be, the way that it should be.
Okay.
Is there, someone mentioned a code violation, do I have a code violation?
Yeah, for hatting trees,
For what?
cutting the tree at the very top, racking a tree.
I don't-
You excessively cut the tree.
Which tree?
That you'd have to deal with the code.
I haven't gotten a letter, so is that an open violation that's now current?
They said that you had a violation and it was cleared, but you actually cut the top of the tree. There was a huge tree in the yard when you bought it. Because
Oh, but that
I ride by
was-
there every day.
Oh,
I ride by there every day, and you had it, you cut it really short. So I guess that the city said something to you about it.
or maybe it was the previous owner, because I don't think there was a tree in the yard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Any questions to the applicant?
Yeah, I have one question through the chair. Ms. Santos, and I understand what you said about your husband having ALS and not being able to go to the house. Have you modified the inside of the house at all?
Yeah, I have a ramp that I put in, but the house is narrow, so if he's there with other people, it's hard to rotate the chair. So that's why I wanted to do an addition, and I wanted to bring him home, and my parents would be living with me. So then it would be like an additional room for them, then a larger area for my husband to
Right,
be
but-
in, and then he would have a room.
Right, but have you modified the doors? Have you modified the bathrooms? Have you modified anything in the house to make it compatible for him to be in the house before doing this addition?
No, to modify the house, so I was gonna have him in that large room in the back.
Yes.
Because then the master and the bathroom there would be large enough for his chair. Right now, the bathrooms are small, and I would have to tear down a lot of walls. And it would just make sense, I need another room for my parents to help me care for him too.
Right, no, I understand.
And with my kids and me,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's the reason for the addition.
No problem.
Through the chair, just for the record, you probably read it already, but we did provide 2 emails that were provided as public comments. One email was in favor of the addition, just not with the variance, and the secondary email was opposed. Okay.
Through the chair, have you, it seems like if part of the whole goal is to make a bigger home, there seems to be, and I could be mistaken, but in the front, it seems like you are about 40 feet from the sidewalk. So my understanding is the code is that you could actually grow the house front as well to 25 feet, I think.
I think it's, through the chair, it's 35 feet, 4 inches.
35,
Yeah, to the edge of for the front of the house, so she could go 10 feet forward. Right, yeah, we're supposed to be 25. but this one is 35.
35.
I can see it I can see it in the drawing there.
Right, but what I'm saying is this house, I'm imagining the code here would be 25 feet as well, so you could grow the house front if necessary,
Correct.
Yes,
without a variance.
yes.
Because I understand what you're saying about that your house is kind of awkward, but it's really not too awkward. It's gonna happen on every corner. You have two streets, and I get it that when I first looked at it, I thought, well, the same thing. If your house was facing Leaning Pine, then you would only have to be
Right.
7.5
I mean, I could
feet.
technically make the
from-
front of my house face Leaning Pine.
Right, but then you would
And
be
then I'd be-
violating no, you would be in violation of the setback to your neighbor on Miami Lakeway South. So, however you position it, you're gonna have a rear setback for, of the 25 feet. That's pretty much standard, 25 feet in the back, 25 feet in the front, and you could build your house 50 feet
Also,
or
just to
whatever.
clarify, the position of the lot is always the narrow side.
Right.
Is supposed to be the front and the back. The longer side is always the sides.
Right.
So whether the house actually has the front door on the longer side or on the shorter side, the lot is considered to have a front and a back, on the narrow sides, and sides to the wider sides. So no, it wouldn't have any difference. It would still be 25 on the narrow side, 25 on the rear narrow side, 15 on the longer sides.
Through the chair, Mr. Julie, you're actually right. It says 39.8.
Yeah, almost 40 feet. Yeah.
That's 39.8 if you want to see it on that drawing.
No, I zoomed it up in my computer. Zoom is a wonderful thing. Yeah, I don't have any other questions. It was just observations of ways that you could technically work something out to, I get your situation. I have to balance.
I also have a
Everything.
budget, and
Yeah.
the easiest way would be to go back and break the roof there, not break the entire roof, you
No,
know.
I get it.
And
And
I've
that-
been advised that that's the best way to go.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it infringes on all the parameters that we have to maintain, in the town. So, to the people that are familiar with this type of a thing, any recommendation that we could come up with that would help her? Because the way that she's presenting it is gonna be a no from me. I'm gonna agree with the town. So is there any, Mr. De La Sierra, you're a contractor, that you see that we could recommend to her?
If she came back, we gave her 5 feet additional, make the addition be 20 feet from the edge of the property line, then she would be able to have almost a 38-foot, 38 feet almost. We're proposing a 50-foot addition. And they're proposing a 50-foot addition there. And there's 59.50 from the edge of the house to the property line. So if they did a 30-foot addition, they would be 20 feet away. We would be giving them 5 feet additional to make the addition that they want to do.
Is that
With
something that you
the,
would consider?
That's, at least 15 feet from the property line I would prefer, because then I can fit a little bit more, and I can fit a room, and I can fit,
I like to
a
play-
larger
I
room
like to play the,
with a
the
larger
winning number
bathroom.
and the louder would be, and I can't have that.
So what he's saying is, right now you have a 30 by 50. What a board member De La Sierra is suggesting is perhaps we could do like 30 by 40, which is 1,200 square feet. That's almost the size of your current home.
That's the size of a house, that's a lot. It's
It is.
huge.
It's huge.
Because
Otherwise-
all those other
otherwise, I
references
mean-
that you were making to are what are called accessory buildings,
I'm
they
inclined
limits
to
to
deny
you,
this.
limits you as to how many square feet you could build.
And what's the limit on the square feet?
I
A-
think it's
And that limit is
350.
100 square feet.
And they're open air.
Yeah, and they're open air.
They're open air.
so-
They're not closed buildings. So even if you extend your roof, you know, you still have, I mean, if you wanted to extend your roof and make a patio, it's open air. It's not something that you can close in and use as living space. So even though, because I looked up the ordinance that you had said about the 5-foot setback,
Yeah,
but that's not
No.
gonna work. My concern to the committee is, it is a big, it almost is as big as your home, number one. Number two, you've done no modifications to the inside your home, to try to prevent building such a large home to get that extension. That's why I asked the question.
there's,
Now,
mhm.
my background, in the fire service, I went to a lot of homes with people with wheelchairs and I fully understand. But if you had made some modifications and it didn't work out, or it, let me finish,
Mhm.
okay? And then we could have said, okay, let's look at, you know, what you've done, what the complications are, but at 30 by 50, I'm a no also. So if you want to reduce the size, I see that the board, and I can count numbers, so should you. I see the board is suggesting that you lower your square footage, and you'll probably get what you need, not what you want. And that's just where I see this going.
We always try to work with the
Right.
applicant and
Right.
within reason.
If-
Through the
if-
chair, we're trying to help you.
Yeah, if I try to modify a bathroom, I have no dining room to eat. Okay? If I modified the other bathroom, I have no room for a bed. So I couldn't modify anything. It wouldn't be worth it to even try.
I hear what you're saying, but it's not reality. I get you.
That's
I'm
why I
a
haven't tried to
contractor.
modify anything.
I'm a contractor, I can modify.
You know,
things.
my husband, you know, he's on a ventilator, and he has a lot of equipment, a lot. And it needs to be a big room. Right now, they're taking him a bath in the backyard. And my mother-in-law has a 2-story house, and it is larger. Yes, it's big, but you can't pick him up. You can't put him up the stairs. You can't, you know. So, so I yes, it's big what I'm asking for, but it's for comfort. It is for comfort.
Do
it
you
is.
understand that I'm gonna vote no?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, and if you wanna make it that big, I'm gonna vote no, you're not gonna get it. You understand that part?
yeah, I.
Okay.
So, but, you know, if you guys think that if I can try to fit everything with the 40 by 20 or whatever it is that you're saying, and maybe the architect can help me, you know, I understand that too.
Well, you have a really good architect, so.
Yeah, you would have to come back, to us with a new proposal, But if it's within, you may not even have to. The zoning department may go ahead and approve it without, if there is no variance,
Well, no, I
So
mean,
she-
what he's,
What I'm
Mr.
suggesting
is a
requires a
variance.
variance.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, so then,
she-
What
like,
I'm
she can
suggesting, it
do-
requires a variance.
So she would,
Hold on, let
she
me
would
do the
come back
numbers.
again with the,
She can do, she has room for an addition without a variance.
She does.
Just to be clear, she has room to do an addition on the rear yard without a variance. She can do a 30 by 30 without a variance, with no variance of any sort.
30 by 30.
That's almost
Good.
1,000
She
square
could
foot.
She could add a 20 by 20 in the front also, without a variance, because
Correct.
I'm looking at the drawing, so without a
Correct.
variance,
And all the
she
way
could do a
across,
20 by
not just,
20 in the front
not just a
yard.
little bit, but all the way across.
Yeah, that gives you your whole addition. I mean, you have to modify your house,
right,
but to get
But,
to what you need,
right. Can I have the 20 setback instead of 25 and just do it in the rear, so I save a little bit too on the cost of, so I don't have to add
Well,
in the
that's pro-
front and the back?
That's the proposal that I'm making you.
Yeah.
20 feet.
I mean, I think that'll be okay, so I don't have to add in various places. I can just add in one and keep the cost.
Trying to help you.
Yeah, yeah, no, I understand, and I understand, and maybe I don't see it because I'm not an architect, and the plan's already been drawn, and that's what I saw. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's what I think. But again, if you guys who have more experience in this think that that's okay, then,
No, and you have a good architect, I mean.
Mr.
And I'm not
Musi-
trying to pay the sympathy card either, I'm just giving you the reasons why and the things that
Right.
I've done or haven't done,
No, we
And
understand.
everybody has situations in their life and things going on.
We understand, but we
Yeah.
have to keep,
Right, yeah.
Mr.
you know, an order.
Mr. Chair, if I can just state a few things for the board to consider. Understand that what you're doing here is really you're applying law, and the facts have to apply to the law, and you have to meet certain criteria. The criteria that's stated here is stated, and every, municipality in the state of Florida has to follow similar criteria. You have to find that there is a special harm to her, that special harm is something that's unique to her property, and something that meets all these 7 criteria, which in a nutshell, that's really what it is. Now, you have deference and you have discretion to choose what you wish, but understand that the law is this. I mean, everybody has, their own properties, they have their own setbacks. Many of you are homeowners in Miami Lakes. I'm a homeowner in Miami Lakes, I have the same setbacks, and we have to live within those confines of our code. If you wish to give her something else, again, you have the discretion, but these are the guidelines that you're supposed to follow. I just wanted to kind of bring it back to that.
Right, but we don't have to give it at all.
You do not.
Right, I understand that.
Any more questions for the applicants?
And just for clarification again, we do have procedures for accommodation for situations for people with disabilities that need to move wheelchairs and things that require variances for those purposes. If she needed ramps that encroach onto setbacks, if she needed an elevator that was trying to bridge, these are accommodations that we can provide. But at the difference than a variance a variance is granted to the property, and accommodation is granted to the person, which then when they sell the property, they have to remove. So obviously, extending the square footage of the home is not something that can be removed when the person is no longer residing there, which then means that you're giving the accommodation to the property instead of to the person. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's the big difference in the situation.
All right. No more questions for the applicants? You may sit down. Now we'll open it up or continue with our discussion, panel discussion, to make a recommendation on this.
If you want, I can make a motion that we allow a 20-foot setback from the rear for the addition, instead of the 9 feet that she's asking for. Make it 20-foot setback rather than the actual 25-foot setback that's required by code.
To do a 20.
To do a 20 that's required by code and zoning. Do a 20-foot setback for her.
Any other? Julia?
Any
Anything
other
you
motion?
want to add? Or can
No,
you
no,
do-
I'm trying to, because based on the advice of obviously the town council, we are limited to looking at this analysis and then look at these criterias, and I'm trying to figure out which criteria I could justify what I'd like to do,
It's really hard.
but can I do it?
Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm looking at the first one, we have not received written support. I think it would be a challenge to say that it's compatible. The only one that I could see is that the variance is not gonna cause substantial detriment to the adjoining property, just because if that property was facing a different way, it would be 7.5 feet.
Does anybody want to second the motion for discussion?
I'll second it for discussion. I have, so at the 20-foot setback, that would still give her 1,400 square feet, did you say, or
1,200.
1,200?
1,200.
Well, it
And-
depends how thick.
Right,
she
and
does.
right now, what's the total number she's asking for?
1,500.
1,500. That's a closet. I can't go any more than the 20
Yeah.
as well. I just think it's gonna be a monstrosity. I mean, you're sitting in a very, very, it's gonna open a can of worms for the whole town. I just think it,
No doubt.
It's actually almost doubling the
Yeah.
square footage of the
Yeah.
house.
Of the house.
yeah. So Unfortunately, that pool, the way I look at it, the pool is just sitting in the wrong direction. If that pool was in another direction or a little bit towards that pie wedge that you have, that would have been optimal for you to extend your home, and then you would have been within the setback and not an issue. I don't know if you put in the pool, if the pool was there before you, I'm not sure, but that would have been optimal for that, but, I can deal with the 20. I can deal with the 20.
I believe the pool is a new pool. Yeah, it's a new pool that was permitted after they bought it.
Mr. De La Sierra, would you like to make a motion?
I made the
No,
motion.
you made the motion? There's
The
a
motion
second.
is made.
We're just discussion now.
Oh, okay.
We're discussing it, sir. So,
So we do have a motion on the floor, and then we have a second.
I want to just address, again, you vote how you need to vote, and you vote how you wish. But you did make a mention, Member Julia, about impacts to the surrounding, the neighbors. And it seems to me, and maybe Susanna can address this a little bit more, that the way that this addition is positioned would be encroaching onto the setback where the neighbor's home fence faces towards this property. That's what it seems to me here. I don't know if I'm looking at it wrong.
But it's the side yard of the neighbor.
Right.
It's the side yard of the neighbor,
Right. So
because
it's not facing
again,
towards the lake, it's facing towards
Right.
the side yard.
right. You want to call for a vote?
Yep, let's call for the vote.
Okay, calling the roll for item 6A, the motion made by De La Sierra and seconded by Vice Chair Rodriguez. Board Member Julia?
No.
Board Member, excuse me, Board Member De La Sierra?
Yes.
Vice Chair Rodriguez?
Can you read the motion one more time for me, please?
The details?
Yes, of the motion.
Well, could Raul specify clearly on your end?
Yes, that the setback would be 20 feet from the property line rather than 25 feet.
I'm a yes.
That was a yes?
Yes,
Thank you.
to the motion.
And then Chairman Senra?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion does pass.
If you wish, we can give Mr. Avelino Leoncio a minute to come in.
He might have gone to dinner.
Huh?
Said he might have gone to dinner.
He might have. Relax. Relax.
Relax, don't get nervous.
Exactly.
I'm already nervous. I believe that. Yes, she's building a duplex, yes. I feel for her pain as far as her
Yeah.
husband
I got it.
and the situation that they're in. So, anyone else, I would have said just
No.
the 25-foot setback, sorry.
So, Mr. Chair, may I call the second matter?
Yes.
Okay, the second matter is VARH 2025-0167, Folio 32, 2023-008-1230. This is hearing number VARH 2025-0167. The applicant is Diego Machin, and the property is located at 7260 Point Siena Court. We will hear first from this town, and then next from Mr. Machin.
Hello, good evening, Justin Telleria. The applicant is Diego Machin Jr., and he is requesting 3 variances. One, The first one from section 13-1508 to allow for 75.58% impervious area in the front yard, where 70% impervious area is the maximum permitted for a property with 50 feet or less of frontage. The second one is a variance from section 13-1605 to allow a pool to encroach beyond the tie line, a maximum of 2 feet 5 inches at 4 different points. And the third variance is a variance from section 13-1605 to allow an area of 296 square feet of pool decking to encroach past the tie line, where 225 square feet of pool decking is allowed past the tie line. Staff is recommending for approval of request 2 and denial for requests 1 and 3 as shown in the attached plans. That is all.
Any questions for the town staff?
I have a question. Let me ask you, so obviously this property is over here in the cul-de-sac. And how is it that with all the how's the front part calculated when you're doing the impervious thing? Like, are all these different curvatures taken into consideration, or?
Yes, I would refer to the site plan that they submitted. They were calculating from one side of the curvature to the other side of the curvature, and that's how they were measuring the total square footage for the front yard. I'm not sure if that answers your question, Board Member Julia.
No, it was just that normally, obviously, when you have a nice square, it's, 25 feet by 75 feet.
Yeah.
It's a simple calculation. I was just curious here with all the ins and out that the property has, how it's even get calculated.
So the front yard is calculated on a 25-foot parallel line to the semicircular curvature of the front of the property, if that makes any sense. So it's like it's pie-shaped and semicircular. It's
Yeah.
not, or circular, right?
Right.
So it just made it a little bit more challenging to calculate how much was the required front yard, and certainly how much of that was being occupied by proposed hardscape.
Right. And are these the concrete slab kind of
I think, yes, I think they're proposing permeable material. Now, the challenge in this is that because it is pie-shaped, the portion of the required front yard, and we're always talking about the required front yard,
Yeah,
because we
that's
don't really count what's happening after those 25 feet. The portion of it that abuts the actual street where the vehicles have to ingress and egress, right? That's where it becomes very crowded, which is the reason that he's requesting the variance to begin with. Staff does believe that there's ways that this can be shaved a little more to make it to the 70. That would be better, and that's why we ended up recommending against after a lot of heartache. But it's definitely one of those that merits a consideration by the board.
right, because I guess what they're trying to do is do like as close to a circular driveway as you can,
Right.
and
I just don't know how.
the challenge, I guess, on this
Yeah,
lot.
I don't know how realistic it is to think of turning around in that circle. It's gonna be anyway, so
It'd be
it's.
very difficult.
We have two side ones here. We have one with a bunch of elevations, and then the other one with the pool. So the one
Yeah, because this is
It's the survey.
proposed.
That would be the survey.
Yeah, that's why I was just curious how even you calculate total frontage on a
I'm sure
plot.
the applicant is gonna be able to
Okay.
answer a lot of your questions, because yes, this was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, through the chair, what they're doing is taking out a driveway, an existing driveway, correct? Is what's gonna happen?
Correct.
They're gonna take a square cut existing driveway and put in the dual access is really, well, it was very difficult to make it a circular driveway, but a dual access driveway.
Correct.
And the material being used is permeable?
I do believe it's permeable pavers, am I right? I think we can ask the applicant, because that would be a
We can
condition of
ask them when they're
approval.
talking.
Okay.
Again,
Yeah,
if
because I had
they
seen
were-
that in the note, that it allows it to go to 70 if they're using
Correct.
permeable. but
If they're
I don't know
using
what's-
permeables. So that would be if If they are, anytime that they're more than 60, they would be required to use permeable pavers. So if you do approve any sort of variance beyond the 70, they would definitely be required to use permeable pavers. And that would be a condition of approval.
Can you say it again? You said 70, anything
Okay,
before?
so the regular driveways are required to be 60/40.
60/40, right.
If they're smaller driveways, 50 feet or less,
Mhm.
smaller frontages, 54 feet or less, which this one definitely is, they're allowed to have 70/30 as long as they use permeable pavers
Okay.
and lush landscaping.
So
Yeah,
if this one went to 70,
it would have to be
they'd still have to have
permeable
permeable.
pavers,
They
correct.
still have to
Now,
use
they're
permeable.
asking for 70, what? 70, what was the final number? 72, 75?
75.58%.
So definitely anything north of 60 has to utilize permeable pavers.
No questions for staff?
No, I don't have any further questions.
All right. Mr. Manchin, you want to come up? Yeah, come up to the podium.
Through the chair, you both can come up and give your names and addresses, please.
My name is Osvaldo Carcachi, Ozzy. I'm general contractor to Mr. Maching. I'll try to answer all your questions. I have some printouts that I'd like to give you, if I can. You wanna stay who you are?
Please provide them to the clerk.
Provide them to the clerk.
My name is Diego Machin, 7260 Ponciana Court, Miami Lakes.
Thank you.
Maybe? Yeah. It's a beautiful property. Beautiful.
We're not trying to achieve a circular driveway. It's impossible, as you guys were saying. It's what we're trying to achieve is access for him. The vehicles now are just, they're larger. And the right side of the property, which is the west, it's so angled that the right side of the garage almost makes it useless to use. And he's finding himself pretty much almost hitting the utilities constantly. And that's the hardship that, and I took a picture in the front so you can see the angle of the right side, which is the west side of the garage. Extremely difficult to, and that's basically, the goal would be to add the additional driveway to have a second approach so that he can park there and not have to use the other side, which is, sometimes you hit that AT&T or that particular tombstone and it knocks off the neighbor's cables. So we're trying to look at a way that he can better use for this property, which from what it was to what it is, we want to make sure that the city does, and it doesn't look bad, but we also want Mr. Maching to be able to use his house without, with his full potential.
Through the chair, I have a question.
It's concrete right now, it's not pervious.
Okay, yeah, that's gonna be my question, because you understand that if we're able to give you anything at 70, you're talking about close to anything 70 or above. You have
60 and above.
60 and above, you have to go impermeable anyway. So, just,
That would mean I would have to take down the existing driveway to reach the percentage.
yeah, that, again, we're trying to, and I fully understand Mr. Maching wants to use his home, and these homes are old and they were built, like you said, with bigger cars, you have easements and infrastructure, but the issue is, trying to, at the same time, stay within somewhat of, you know, the regulations and the beauty of Miami Lakes. So that's my concern. I just wanted to make sure, because you had been shaking your head, that you're going with cement. So,
Well, we currently have. It would be reverting completely to taking out the existing driveway that we just installed.
yeah, I'm just, I want you to be
No,
aware of
I
that.
understand what you're saying.
Okay?
Do you understand what he's saying? That if
Through
they
the
give
chair.
us- if they
Through
give us
the
the
chair.
variance.
The other thing you could do is make it a two-lane driveway instead of doing it all concrete in. So if you're leaving green area in between where the car would drive and place rock in there, and then you would be under the 60 feet. You know,
You're
you know how
saying
they
it-
how they do
eliminate the center?
2-foot wide driveways for each set of wheels? And you could do that up to the existing driveway that you have and make the rest of the area rocks or grass, and then you would meet the 60%.
Let's see what you're saying.
If you don't want to take the concrete out, you're saying it would cost them to take the concrete out.
Well,
And I'm just trying to help you to get.
no, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm
to
trying
get the
to,
60%.
I'm trying, I
To
can't.
digest.
I'm trying to
You could get the
digest what you're
60%
saying because
so you can stay in concrete.
I think when you build a house and you have, we tried to do it the way that he wants, I don't think he would go that route. So I'm accepting what you're saying, I just can't answer for him and say that that's what we would do.
Right, just in order, this is a way that you can do it and not have to remove the concrete to get the 70% or more than the 70% that you're.
Less than
or
60,
actually
no?
More than 60%.
Yeah, that's the
that you're
problem, right?
requesting, you have to make it permeable.
I mean, they do make pervious concrete, which the problem is that it doesn't match the existing concrete. It's very granular, and I've used it before, and it's more pervious than most products, so.
Well, you'd have to take everything out and make the whole thing permeable.
And
Make it
that's
per-
not a variance, that's just a code. Then they would have had to have asked for a variance for that.
Okay, so, let me start all over. If it's a regular driveway, regular 60-foot home, 60-foot lot, right? The requirement is 60/40, right? When the lot is narrower, like his, which is 50, we did pass regulations, I think it was a couple of years ago,
Yeah, I remember.
to give them provisions to, instead of doing 60/40, they would be allowed to do 70/30, as long as they did permeable pavers, so that we could mitigate the additional, hardscape and have some place for the water to go, right? That was
Otherwise,
the-
they'd have
the
to
thought.
meet the 60.
Otherwise, he would have to meet the 60/40, right? Which for smaller lots is kind of challenging.
Yes.
To make 60/40. It was hard for them to be able to get enough driveway area on 60/40. And that's why that was created. Now, you can look at this two ways. The way that the variance is faced right now is a variance to the 70, because he's asking for more than 70, right? So I cut it off at 70, understanding that permeable pavers would be used, right? You can also consider it a variance to the higher than 60.
So we could
That's
consider,
your
let's say, a
choice.
70%, but allow concrete.
Correct. But then again, where's the cutoff point, right? So this is a choice you have. Again, the point of this is always to mitigate the water that is the runoff water that is gonna end up on our stormwater system, because obviously, concrete is gonna be creating runoff. This amount of concrete adjacent to the sidewalk is gonna create a lot of runoff, so giving the water somewhere to go before it gets to our stormwater system is always the intent of having some permeability in places. That's the challenge that we face, right?
So question, if he did a French drain, put a drain there, a lineal drain across the front of the driveway.
Between the driveway
to
and the sidewalk.
Between
What I
the
mean-
driveway and the sidewalk, put in a lineal drain and send it to a French drain within the property, then you could
But
Well,
Yeah,
the
that's
concrete.
what I was gonna ask you
What
about a
if
drain.
they, what if they grade the land towards the sides? I mean, they have so much property on,
'Cause-
on either side that,
You mean grade it back away from the road?
back away from the road.
You gotta
somehow.
grade
That's
toward the
difficult.
inside of
You
your
already got-
property. You gotta maintain the water toward the inside of your own property.
Right.
We do have a lot of grass area on that side. The comment about adding a drain,
The French drain?
it could be looked at because since the detail of the driveway has, rocks in between, I could look at an option of trying to aesthetically have that in a dual function, something that could be, and maybe that could work and segmented, I would have to see.
You could do a well-type French drain straight down?
Yes,
Pipe with rocks and get it, perforated pipe
and,
with rocks
and
and
that
put it
would
down.
be to meet the 70% concrete, not this, not 1% more, right?
Maybe you could stop the water, yeah, that's what Suzanne said.
Yeah, because even at
If
the
you could
70%, we're
maintain
doing
the
a
water to
variance,
your
because from
property.
what I understand of the code,
Correct.
if anything over 60, you have to go to the permeable one. If you go to permeable, you gotta take out what you
Right.
have there, which
B-
makes no
But
sense.
thankfully, it was looked at on a different way.
Right.
That would, if I could do concrete at 70%, I could look at seeing how much footage I can get away from and see if it even works. That's another thing. It looks like it's a lot, but when you start to reduce and try to meet a percentage, it becomes almost impossible, because then is it worth doing it and not being able to use it? So that's the challenge. We put something together that we really thought would be usable, because just adding it is not the purpose to it. We'd rather not. It's just, he needs to use it, so.
Right.
I couldn't say, I mean, thank you for the input on that. I
Alright.
just would have to see it on paper and physically on the site if it even works.
The calculations that we have that are provided to us show that their front yard is 1,562 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
My first question was, how did that, how was that calculated and stuff like that, to
Yeah,
see
it's
if perhaps there was
calculated
a...
through CAD and through the actual.
So
Yeah.
as the applicant, you're okay with that number?
Well,
I don't know if that was a number that you generated or
No,
the
we,
town generated.
We
we
verified
generated
that.
with my
Okay,
architect,
okay.
so, yeah, it's.
We verified that. It took us a minute and a half, but we verified it graphically.
Because I can't
using
figure it
our-
out.
Yeah, we used Review and we
You're the
used
first
this
one that-
AutoCAD,
Well,
yes.
from the get-go, even when we built the house, it was a challenge to go ahead and build it and do it right and meet the code to go ahead and do it. Now that we're moving forward, we're trying to get as much in a usable way as we can. Basically, that's what we're here. I mean, I understand your points.
But again, I say that with so much land that you have, there's so much green area, the water has somewhere to go.
Correct, which
Other than the public right of way.
Which is why it gives very less, it concerns less, right? Because there is still a lot of, even if it's not on the first 25 feet, which is the narrowest part, the pie shape of the property still provides ample
Ample.
Yeah,
space.
the
and
property-
Is there a
greenery
way,
and for
is there a
other
way
things,
that
yeah.
we could, because obviously we have to balance the concern of, flooding and all that other stuff. I mean, you're a professional, you know that. Is there a way that we could word something to the effect of how does that even get really calculated, in the sense
I know that
giving the
during our
75, 88, but as
conversations-
long as the water is under control, for lack of a better
Yes,
word?
I know under our conversations, we discussed adding some trees and some landscaping on the edges, so that it would be, areas with tree roots attract more water and draw water to themselves, because that's what tree roots do, right? So that's one way that you start pulling water out from the stormwater system.
We haven't added the landscaping because we haven't built the pool. And that's
Yes.
part of this whole, and I really, it would block my access to the rear of the
course.
property.
Correct,
So,
yes, but obviously ultimately. it's
And,
not- you
and the
don't
fact
have
that they're
to
doing
double
those
the-
concrete slabs, you could, like, the board member De La Sierra was saying, some way to figure out to move the water, the whole idea obviously is the water not to go into the street.
Oh, you can just
And you have a huge lake in the back, and you have the
do a
side area.
drain across
Little side
the
area.
existing concrete that he has there.
it's
can
very
cut that
doable
and do a
because it's in a
drain
linear
there and then
format, and that's what we
send it
have.
back to a lateral French drain, It's a lateral French drain pipe, you put rock inside of it to the water table, and it sends the water directly to the water table.
It's very understood, and it works with the possible design since it's in linear form, and we could look at something like that. So that is an option.
Plus, to help you not remove the existing concrete you have in there.
And you could still do what you need.
It's a waste of money. You're talking about $7 a square foot now,
Yeah, unfortunately.
plus taking it out.
Plus taking it out and, I mean, I like the option. It's something that we can definitely look at. And try to keep it concrete and keep the same aesthetics that we have. And obviously, there will be a lot more landscaping. I noted it on a particular plan, which is the 8.1. I just put one tree, but he has more intentions once we are able to get toward the rear, finish the pool, and then basically start landscaping more.
Through the chair to staff, Ms. Alonso, do we have to, if we were to approve this, do we have to add the landscaping aspect to it, or is that gonna be?
Yes, I would add that as a condition of approval, yes.
Okay,
And again, it's okay for them to put the landscaping after the pool, that's just fine.
right,
There's
right.
there's
No time frame
issue.
on the landscaping until the pool's done, but I just wanna know if we have to include that into the motion if we decide to go
It
with
would
the
be a
variance.
good, I would probably put it as a conditional approval anyway,
Excellent.
yes.
Through the chair, Ozzy,
Yes, sir.
on A-1.1,
Mhm.
you have this triangle type looking. Yeah, you can approach. You have this, what is?
I did that so that somebody, if they asked me, did I try to put the pool anywhere else other than where I wanted it?
Okay.
What page?
I was trying
Yes.
to understand what that was, thank you.
I know that you've seen that before,
not
whenever
an
we are
error.
doing
page was
especially
it
on a property this large, where obviously it looks like there's many options
Right,
for locating pools.
right.
I always ask them to at least make the exercise, of the mental exercise, to see if it would fit.
Yeah, I was wondering what.
Mrs.
Without-
Alonso was clear
Yeah.
that it needed to be somewhere where it had to be, and we
And that
said,
gives
okay,
me
let's look at the side yard.
my peace of mind to recommend in favor happily, because yes,
It looks like an error, but it's
Is the
Yeah,
only
that
way you
wouldn't
get.
make sense there. No,
not, unfortunately not.
no.
Any more questions for the applicant?
And basically, so there's three variances, one for the front, one for the pool, and then one for a little bit more square footage of pavers towards the back. How high are we gonna have that, the part that's behind? Because the other concern that we have from the lake,
It's line of sight,
it's what?
line of sight, that you don't block the view.
Okay.
This is a flat deck. It's not a raised, the jacuzzi is
Right, but the jacuzzi is kind of inside.
flat.
I'm sorry, did I miss, is this,
The infinity will be the jacuzzi.
this is not going past the slope, correct?
It is.
It is going past the slope,
2 feet
2 feet past the
on
slope.
the corners of the pool.
Yeah, just on
So the
cor-
pool
green
goes over
areas.
2 feet on the corners, because the diagonal is cutting across the corners. So
Okay.
that diagonal is 2 feet. The decking,
The decking is
the
like 40.
decking would be allowed to be 225 square feet beyond the tie line. He's requesting 296 feet.
I think
Beyond the
it's
tie line.
71 square feet additional.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Next page.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I did some calculations on one of the, it has like a blue, it's this right here, on the top. It shows you the area of encroachment, and to give you the idea, one of the issues with this house is that we built it, we tore it down and basically left certain sections of the house. The house is set back 28 feet. Those are the 3 feet that I need. And unfortunately, we didn't move the house, but when we realized in the tie line, it made the edge of the pool, which is 9 feet, it made it like 7, and
Yeah,
it
it makes
really
no sense.
wasn't worth doing a pool that's that narrow. So then we started talking about, well, we're gonna go over into the encroachment of the tie line. And then you have, well, if you want to walk around the pool, how do you walk around the pool? So what we're presenting to you is
The least
what we think is logical for the pool and the use of the pool, and keeping a minimal deck around, 5 feet around complete. And it would only go 4 inches, or it's really just a flat slab with, just to get around the pool, and then grade to the deck.
Right.
Can you and Mr. Machine discuss the impermeable and the drainage situation to see if he would be amicable to us approving it that way? So I know whether we can approve it
Oh,
or
you're saying the
disapprove it.
driveway?
I mean, the driveway, if he would be amicable to doing some type of drainage system so we can approve it or not approve it at all.
Can I have a second?
Sure,
Because then you
that's
can-
what I'm saying, if you guys would take a second and discuss it amongst yourselves.
Cost me more, but yeah. You could ask for a reduced permit fee.
I think the options that you gave us are good options and that we want to look into. I mean, so that's
I
what.
just want to know so we can make a,
Yes. Obviously, well, that's where it gets challenging, but we're going to need to get 70%, then we're going to have to discuss the water containment and control, and then we'll have to present this in a permit and in a design form anyway.
right.
So that would be shown.
To the homeowner, I don't know if you understand what we're talking about. When you have to, your water that comes on, that rains onto your property, has to stay in your property.
He knows that.
Okay, no, I just, because there's a lot of people that don't understand, and then they want to, cement, not that he wants to do that, because he's obviously offering a lot of landscaping, a lot of grass area, but there's a lot of people that just want to cement everything. And so that's why the permeable cement and the reason for having, a certain percentage, so that the water contains on your own property.
And the only case that we don't do that here in Miami Lakes, it's in the rear yards where we send it to the lake in order to replenish the lake. That we don't want to send it to the streets.
Exactly.
We want to send it
Right.
towards the lake.
That's the purpose of the street.
Right, exactly.
We've respected the setbacks, and basically, we built the house to its current code, so I'm clear on that, and I understand, and thank you for that option.
No, it's-
Any other questions
I
to
see
the
house, a
applicant?
beautiful house.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I don't have.
No? Right, you may sit down. We'll open it up for discussion among us, and then hopefully to make a motion.
Okay, I have a question. Which is the plan that we're working with? 811, this one?
Yeah, that's what they're requesting.
Because they have one here with another pool.
That would be the one in our drawing.
one, so that you
The
could
color
see.
one is the one, okay.
That would be this one.
The pool on the side is
It's just a, right.
Right.
Is there any other way to do a pool?
No, yeah, okay, no, but they have another pool in the back.
No, this is the one here.
No, this is the one.
The
Yeah.
blue one,
Yeah, the
okay.
blue one.
Okay,
This is what we're
all right,
gonna
okay.
That's the one.
If I may, through staff or the county attorney, how would we word the part of the drainage part? That everybody's clear.
I would say something like a French drain parallel to the sidewalk must be installed to retain all drainage on property.
A lateral drain along the sidewalk at both,
Yeah.
driveways, because you have 2 driveways, green area in between. And send that to they could choose either type, either a regular standard French drain or the one that's like a well, that you sink it
Yes.
down
To
10
the-
feet with rock in it and send the water
To the
down.
satisfaction of the building department, who
Right.
will have opinions about it.
Right,
Right,
So,
yeah, they have to engineer that.
Correct.
right. Have to be engineered.
I mean, again, in the motion, I would think that we would want to include both options of the drains, and not restrict the property owner.
Right.
Right, that's the
We
thing.
can make the choice, an option.
Right, option of
an
which
engineered-
drain,
an
which drain
engineered
system they
drainage
want to,
system.
that meets
An
code and,
engineered drainage
it meets-
system by-
exactly.
at the owner's.
exactly. I don't just,
Preference.
I mean, trying to help the homeowner, the property owner as much as possible.
Have a
But I don't
lateral
wanna,
drain.
I don't wanna lock them into one specific drain.
Right.
Give an option, but they have to have the drain.
Yeah, have a lateral drain at both
Right.
approaches to pick up the water, and then they can discharge the water any way they want.
The burden of the design to achieve what you guys are asking basically will fall on us to submit it and approve by the building department.
Correct. Correct.
Do you see,
I was gonna say, through the chair, so everybody knows how I stand on it, I don't have an issue with the 2.5 feet of pool encroachment, nor the deck, actually, there's a lot of land there. I really don't have an issue with the pool area, or the little decking area.
yeah,
The main thing will be the drainage.
The drainage, to keep the water off the streets.
yeah.
And the drainage, they only have to deal with 5%.
Huh?
They only have to deal with 5%.
Right.
But the percentage, are you willing to give them the 75 that they're looking for? At that
Provided
po-
that they have the drainage. I mean,
Provided that they
I'm
have-
inclined to go with the 75, provided that
I'm
they have
the
the
same
drainage.
way.
That would be up to someone to make that decision, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just
I don't-
afraid
I-
to,
I don't-
I'm afraid to do the motion because I don't know exactly how I'm going to word the whole drainage part.
All right, so, I'll put the
Well, they
motion
have
together.
It's
kind of a
Okay,
complicated
so-
motion.
let me try a motion. Let me try a
professional
motion.
has to make a
Let's have the
determination.
contractor make
Let
the
me try,
motion.
and a contractor. Let me try a motion that they do a lateral drain at each one of the approaches to remove the water from the driveway area into some type of drainage system to be designed by the engineer, it would be the civil engineer, to make that design approved by the building department. The rear pool and deck is fine.
Right.
Go
Yeah, so
ahead
we're
with what they
basically
have.
granting all three with the condition of the
Through the
With
drainage.
chair.
that condition.
The only thing I would add to it is subject to approval by the town's building department.
Yeah, subject to approval by the town's building department, yes.
Mr. Sierra, would you be willing to amend that just to add the landscape as required
Yes, sir,
by the staff? So if you would add that to your motion, that would
Yes,
be
sir.
great.
absolutely.
Okay. So, you want to repeat the motion?
I'll second it, I'll second it.
All right.
It's on the
give a-
record. I'll second the motion already.
Okay. Lateral drainage system at the approaches with water to be diverted into an area designed by the civil engineer. Landscaping as required by the building department, and all plans to be approved by the building department for zoning, and zoning.
I'll second that.
All right. So we have a motion, and we have a second.
Yeah, we have a second.
Gave me a
I
headache.
believe
Yeah.
Julia seconded it, correct?
Yeah.
First?
Nelson
Yeah, well,
seconded.
I seconded before he wrote it, but
Okay. So we'll go with a motion by De La Sierra and seconded by Julia.
Correct.
okay.
Okay. Okay, taking roll for item 6B with the conditions just stated by De La Sierra.
75. Yeah,
75.
it's all three
At 75,
At 75.
that's
yeah.
what they have.
Right.
as is, yeah, what they requested with the condition of the drainage and the
Of the
landscape.
drainage.
Okay, calling roll on those conditions stated. Board Member Leoncio,
Yes,
Board Member Julia,
Yes.
Board Member Cruz is absent. Board Member De La Sierra,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chairman Senra.
Yes.
The motion passes.
On to the fun stuff.
Mr. Chair, the next two motions, first, let me say this concludes the quasi-judicial portion of this meeting. The next two items that you're going to see are items that are being presented to the town council pursuant to Florida law. This board sits as the local planning agency of the town of Miami Lakes. Accordingly, it is your job to review any ordinance that affects the local planning, the Land Development Act, of the town, and provide your recommendations for transmittal to the town council. And the first item that you have for you, and I don't know, if you want me to explain it? Or? Okay. The Madam Planner is allowing me to explain it, is with regards to online sales showroom ordinance. And this one is basically, we have a particular need in certain areas of the town. This one came up in the actual area with regards, that's along 155th Street, where the desire was to, and you know what, I'm a little confused because the memo says online showroom ordinance, but the ordinance is the
Where's
one
that
with
annex?
commercial
I don't think I
vehicles.
have that.
Yeah, it's here. It's in the back.
The online sales.
I'm not sure
showroom?
how that happened, but give me,
Yeah, the title got messed up.
the title got messed up a little bit.
It's okay. Yeah, it's actually on the
Well,
agenda.
my question was, what is
All
being
right,
sold
so
online?
the first one, and I apologize, Mr. Chair. The first one, I don't know why the title says online showroom ordinance, but it's not an online showroom ordinance. It's with regards to commercial vehicles. As you all are maybe aware, commercial vehicles that are parked in residential zones are prohibited in the town of Miami Lakes. The way that the code was written at one point created different categories of vehicles, and also did not include for any inclusion of golf carts, which we know are pretty pervasive throughout the town. So what this is doing is it's creating a very uniform definition of what commercial vehicles are, stating that any vehicle which displays or temporarily or permanently in lettering, logo, or markings that identify the vehicle as belonging to any commercial purpose, or the vehicle is visible and designed to carry cargo, supplies, merchandise, machinery, tools, equipment, racks, or other form of commercial nature. This makes it a little bit easier for code compliance folks to be able to identify this vehicle and cite them accordingly. Also, certain vehicles are considered exempt from this, and one of them being golf carts that are registered with the town of Miami Lakes. And that is what is before you today.
I have a question.
Mhm.
What's allowed right now? Because I don't see any pickups, any
It depends.
commercial vehicles on anywhere
So
with logos.
I know where you live. So on the east side, we don't see that as much of Miami Lakes, but on the west side, it's a little bit more common.
On the west side,
Yeah,
meaning
Meaning in certain areas of the town, you see where there's a lot of folks who maybe have a food truck, and they have a
west of 87?
Yeah. Also, you do have in our area of where we're on the east side. I say our area because I live on the east side. A lot of RVs. RVs are not allowed to be parked. So you do have that, and that's part of this code as well. You have on the west side, going back to the issue of commercial vehicles, you'll have maybe a truck or a cargo van, right? That otherwise maybe the cargo van would be fine to be parked, but it'll have particular type of lettering as far as the business. Maybe it's a plumbing business. Maybe it's I don't know, any type of enterprise. So those type of vehicles are prohibited.
So we're looking at vehicles with lettering, with,
Correct. Like wrapping, vehicles that have a
Okay.
wrap.
all right.
Maybe identify someone.
So
Kai's,
what options,
Also-
what options are we giving those people?
They're not allowed to have those vehicles parked in in
Period.
their home.
That's
Yes.
the,
And that's been the code as it's been in the town of Miami Lakes since inception.
And
The only
it's
thing is that the
same- Same deal with the boats and, pretty much. that
correct.
they
This
can
is
have
not dealing
on
with
the-
boats, but this is dealing
Or,
specifically with commercial vehicles and recreation.
motorhomes or.
This one does
trailers,
deal with
deal
motorhomes. It does.
Right.
It discusses recreational vehicles on the bottom.
Has the town given any alternatives, of where, or to just keep them somewhere out of here?
Yeah.
Keep 'em
So
somewhere
the
out of
idea
here.
is
Yes, those would be my words. I mean, when the issues of the boat came here, I really voiced my opinion. I said, no. And if we start allowing, little things, then little things become bigger things.
correct.
So, when I read this, I asked myself, and I asked my wife to read it. I said, please, read it and make sure that I'm understanding what I'm reading.
Right.
And
So you also, for the board to understand, we're not creating new legislation, we're just cleaning up existing legislation. So the policy has always been not allowing commercial vehicles overnight in residential. So if the commercial vehicle comes to do something related to
yeah,
the house,
maintenance
it's
of the
fine,
house, right, yes.
But just, it can't be there overnight.
I agree with that.
So on
I
the
agree
east
with that.
side, I'm on the east side also, but I have commercial vehicles coming in, a guy that's got a, similar to this, a forklift company, and the guy that's got an air conditioning company, they come in and they park their trucks there with the lettering and everything in the neighborhood.
Overnight?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely overnight.
That
So,
is-
as I read, and I read on here, is if they show up with that vehicle, they need to cover it.
Right, that's what I read exactly as well.
What I read in here is that we're not saying that they can't have the vehicle, but they need to
It has to
cover
be
it. Now,
covered.
if it's just lettering on the side of the vehicle that says Jim's Auto Parts.
Right, at one
You
time.
have to put a cover on that, so you
at-
can't see the Jim's Auto Parts the same
Right.
color as the vehicle.
Okay.
And my,
Or you have to put a complete cover on the vehicle.
right, and my
Cover
concern,
it up.
my concern to that is, and again, I have no problem with if they put a magnet over, Jim's Plumbing, and you can't see it, and it's a standard pickup truck, but if it has any accessories or any roof rack or anything like that, then it had to be covered.
Covered.
Right. My issue is, as I read on here, right, is the type of covers that were allowed, right? And so that's where I don't read in here that a specific type of cover is required. And so some of these people are using the blue tarps. And so, to me,
No, I don't think that's a good one.
well, no, but in my neighborhood, I live on the west side. I live on the west side.
That's worse.
I live on the west side,
Worse than the letter.
and so, I mean, just driving around, I thought it was completely inappropriate, right? So, for me, if we're gonna allow somebody to have a covered commercial vehicle, okay, it has to be an appropriate
Like a car cover.
Yeah, like a car cover,
car
or like they make the mobile home covers that are
Correct.
like gray or beige, but a blue or brown tarp from Home Depot, every time it rips, they go buy a new one.
Right.
To me, I understand it's easier to put on,
Mr. Rodriguez, I'm there with
you
you.
know,
I think that's
no,
terrible.
my other issue with this ordinance was, there is a lot of commercial vehicles parked here on the east side along Bull Run and, in the commercial zone, but they're parked on the street. Right? My understanding is some of those are Graham rentals. They rent from the Grahams, and because that's commercial area, the parking lot, they're parking there because there's a school bus that parks overnight. There's a couple of
Food trucks.
huh?
Food trucks,
Food trucks, there's a couple things.
Unrelated
So
things.
that's my real big concern as well too is, so what are we doing about those commercial vehicles? If they're allowed to park on the street, first of all, are they residents of Miami Lakes? Are they living in the apartments? And if they are, since it's a Graham Apartments, let them park in the Graham parking lot across the street and get them off the street. I just don't think it's appropriate off of Main Street, off of Bull Run, that you see a school bus, the tow truck, a food truck. And then at what point do you say, okay, well, because it's designed, zoned commercial, I understand, but it's still a residential area with the apartment building, and it's a main corridor to our main street. So,
There's a food truck I've seen there for a month now that has not moved.
exactly. It's right next to Graham Park, right next to the park. And so
In
it
front
doesn't
of the-
require
In front of the
cover.
elementary school. I mean, in front of the junior high, the
Oh,
junior-
you're talking about on the other side. I'm
Oh,
talking
the
about,
Apartments are?
Where the apartments are, right
right,
there,
I'm talking,
by
right,
the
exactly,
church.
and that's the another,
Right
that,
by
that's,
the Catholic church.
right,
I mean,
that's because it's
that-
zoned commercial,
And
or,
my
you know,
point-
commercial residential.
And
Go
my
ahead.
point is gonna be, okay, we propose that these vehicles have to be covered. Okay, how are we gonna police that after 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night? I mean, the only people that are there is police officers, and that's not their job.
No, there's code enforcement officers that are going in at night. They're the ones that are
Okay, all
patrolling
right,
the
great.
station.
then-
But there's
then great.
no way to cover those, nor do they have to cover them parked on the street in the
Well, I
commercial
mean,
area.
No,
If-
no, no,
if
no, I'm
I'm-
talking in residential areas. You
Right,
know,
I'm just saying in the
you know,
commercial
next to my
area,
house, a plumbing
there's no
truck.
covering there.
How are you gonna cover, plumbing pipes that, stick
it's
out 4 or 5
impossible.
feet, from your
Impossible.
car?
But I think if I may, on the side streets, I mean, when I read this, there's a part here that says all commercial vehicles may only be parked in any legal parking space within private property. So it almost seems to indicate to me that these vehicles that we're seeing on the side street, on the parallel parking,
That's
that,
completely different. That's
But-
not covered or
but they're not,
contemplated.
are they permitted there or they're not permitted there?
Not necessarily, but that's another issue that we're dealing with
Don't you love
as far as
attorneys when they,
enforcement,
they
because
say
that's
that that
enforcement of off-street parking. So that's something else that we're dealing with the code and how to enforce it, because that would be for
The
the
off-street
police,
parking.
or maybe have an agreement with, Miami Parking Authority to be able to regulate that. So that's not what this code is intended to
So
regulate.
this part
That's
that I'm
another
reading
issue.
doesn't really mean,
No.
because when I read that, I'm going like, are they
No, this
even
is-
enforcing this? in
So this
the-
would be going to what, Member Rodriguez said, you would have a commercial vehicle inside one of the apartment complexes at the Graham Zone. That wouldn't be allowed. But this is off-street parking, not on-street parking.
Right, so that person parks
I mean,
it on the side street.
or
on
off
the
street
off
versus
street, or
on street.
whatever, or
Right.
on whatever.
Right, I meant
You know,
vice
the-
If
versa.
it was
Either
in the
way.
Graham property, they would have to cover their vehicle.
Correct.
If it's on the outside, right, at this point in that time,
That's
you're working on that part.
There we go.
Okay, so what are we supposed to vote on?
No, if you have any suggestions, I mean, the only suggestion I've heard is about the blue tarp, that you don't want to use that, or perhaps have a little bit more of legislation with regards.
A commercial type cover,
And we can add that, we can make that suggestion.
a commercial fabricated cover that would cover the whole vehicle.
An actual car cover, not a tarp.
Subject to approval by somebody?
If it's a van that has a
Well,
bunch of
it
racks on
it does kind of say that. It says, a
Yeah.
cover designed specifically for vehicles in
For
good
vehicles.
conditions. If you feel that there's language that we can add to that to make that stronger, I mean, definitely suggest it.
It's pretty good language as it is.
I think so.
Yeah, but again, a cover in good condition could be a blue tarp, a brand-new blue tarp from Home Depot.
Well, it says
says
cover
vehicle.
designed specifically for vehicles.
Well,
Specifically for vehicles.
I got you. My, understood.
But it should probably say specifically for
Maybe
vehicles.
To the actual
include the word
vehicle.
That is in good
no
condition.
tarps, you know.
Can it be limited to the actual vehicle?
I'm sorry?
Like, and I'm thinking, okay, this is not an unpaid political advertising, but the WeatherTech people that they say that they do it customized to your car kind of thing, I don't even know if there's such a thing as car covers customizable to,
I mean,
I don't even know if it exists. I don't want to make
I
it
don't know
overly-
either,
No,
but
see-
I mean, I
see
do
what you're
know
saying.
that they have the
This could be
RV
probably
covers
wordsmith a little bit
Right.
better.
that are, that are large. It'll cover a
right.
commercial
They have them
vehicle
for
with a
all
roof,
sizes.
with a roof rack. And it'll cover all the sides. It'll cover it properly. And it's definitely much more attractive
Yeah.
than a roof tarp,
No RVs are allowed.
No, I'm talking
No,
about
RVs are
commercial
allowed.
vehicles. Like if the person has let's say they're an on-call plumber, and they have to come home and bring that van home. This ordinance allows them to cover that van overnight, as long as it's covered. But
Well, the
what
large
we're
vans
discussing now
that
is
people
making
have
sure that
that
it's
don't
covered
fuel.
appropriate.
They have large van that's a little bit of motorhome, basically what it is. Are they allowed?
Nope.
No, they're not allowed in the
No,
neighborhood.
they're not allowed under this code. No.
If they have it there, they'd have to have it covered?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so what I'll take from you is, we'll work on maybe strengthening that language with regards to the covering.
And you could include the word tarp, I guess.
We can,
No,
absolutely.
yeah, no,
No tarp.
because,
No
I mean,
blue,
tarps,
no
No blue tarp.
Or bright colored tarps.
Absolutely.
I'm really afraid to open up a small window of allowance or.
There's no allowance currently.
It's already
Okay,
there. The ordinance is already there.
That's what I'm afraid and
Yeah.
against totally.
Understood.
Yeah, but,
Absolutely relates to
and let me just speak to what you said about the boats. Anything that was under the Graham development, even if the town wanted to allow boats, it could not. It has a land deed that it's not allowed to have that. So the only people that would be able to have boats are people, west of the Palmetto and north of 87th Avenue and then West Lakes. So those are the only folks that are allowed to have boats. And then, Well-
And those are our smallest lots.
well, West
So
Lakes
those are the
are.
ones where it's more challenging to fit boats and not
Right.
be imposing on the neighbors, so.
Right.
But
Yeah, so-
87th Avenue was not Miami Lakes until recently.
No, 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 it was always Miami Lakes. When the city incorporated, I'm talking about when the city
Yeah, when
incorporated.
incorporated,
Right,
yes.
when they incorporated, yes, everybody incorporated together. But anything that was built by the Grams or planned by the Grams, on the land deed, even if the town wanted to allow them to have boats, they cannot. Because there's a.
ACC.
Yeah, because of the ACC, and there's a deed restriction on all Miami Lakes properties that were built through the Graham program. So even if Miami Lakes decided, the whole council said, I want boats. Now, one thing that we started when I was on the council was the building of the bridge on 59th Avenue and making a lot there for boats and for RVs and stuff like that. And I don't know what the status of that is, and I haven't looked into it in a long time. But that would give it was supposed to give residents of Miami Lakes top priority to rent a space there if you wanted to have a boat or an RV and get it away and put it in the commercial side of Miami Lakes, which is the most appropriate area for it. I'm 100% with you.
There was a question about that because on the approach for the landing strip, it's on the approach for the landing strip, there was a question about
Right.
putting vehicles there in the approach area.
In the previous,
In the approach area of Topolaka, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Along 59th
Yeah.
Avenue.
What you're saying would be.
Right.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
59th Avenue would be going in this direction, the approach for that runway is right through that area.
right, no, I understand.
there was a
but-
question there.
But the FAA, I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
Right.
back then, the FAA had already approved it, so.
But
But we're
I
getting
think
off
Opelika
topic.
at this point.
They're waiting for Opelika Airport to
Yeah,
approve.
we're getting off topic.
Mr.
there.
Chair,
That
yeah,
would be.
just to answer that
appropriate
question,
area.
that's not allowed anymore. I mean, FAA actually disallowed a lot of things that we wanted. We are able to build a road, we're still working on that, but no storage yard as of yet. If you'd like to,
Do we got the road by like the squeaky squeak of the
Yeah.
skinny?
Really?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to move on to the next item? We got all your comments?
yes.
and-
Yes.
Don't they make a motion to approve?
Yep,
So, I'll make a
Motion
motion
to
to approve or recommend approval of this revised ordinance with the condition of better defining the vehicle coverings and not allowing tarps, just commercial tarps.
I'll
Understood.
second that.
Yeah.
Okay, taking roll for item 6C with the revised ordinance and the conditions stated. Motion by Julia and seconded by Senra. Board Member Julia,
Yes.
Board Member De La Sierra,
Yes?
Board Member Leoncio,
Yes.
Board Member Cruz is absent, Vice Chair Rodriguez,
Yes,
and Chairman Senra.
Yes.
The motion passes.
so the next item that you have before you is online sales showroom ordinance. And this item is creating, it's creating a new approved use in certain office, low-density office districts. Specifically, one of the ones that this is going to be affecting is the area that's along Northwest 155th Street. And what it is doing is that where the ancillary use of an online store is to allow for limited persons to be able to view the sale items in a storefront, which will not have any lettering, so it won't be advertised as a storefront. It will be by appointment only. It's to allow that as an allowable use in low-density office district.
Now,
So,
RO13
so
is
Mr.
residential?
Attorney's already getting us in trouble because it's not a storefront. It's a showroom interior to the office building.
Storefront.
So
Right.
that is not accessible from the street, so that it cannot behave as a retail space.
It's a retail store. I know
Which
where
is-
there is one, I guess where, this dentist, building is downstairs. The lady has,
That's what we're
things
talking
that-
about.
Right, that she sells online and, it's all charitable, things, yeah, yeah.
The RO 13 would be that, or is RO 13 is residential?
No, that's office.
That's
Yeah,
office.
because
Okay.
RO is
Residential
residential
office,
office,
yes.
right?
A residential office, so
Downstairs, when you enter
what
the
happens
building,
with a
there's a
house?
little showroom,
That's my question,
little
residential office.
That, the
what I
residential office district
charitable
is,
organization.
particular areas, including that 155 area and the part where the two hotels are, we don't have any
Between
more.
82nd Avenue and
That's it.
87th
That's
Avenue.
the only one.
And, and a couple of them in Wellness Way. There is no actual residences in any of the residential office
They're
districts.
designated R13, RO13.
Now,
Now-
if there was a single-family home in a residential office district, that single-family home could obtain a change of use to be either an office and/or function as an office. So it would be not necessarily just a single-family home. Does that make sense?
Yes?
Yeah.
I just wanted to know that one. Thank you.
And basically, this is adding this use?
Yes.
Only in the residential office, because it's already permitted, I guess, in other districts.
Correct. In another district, it would be a retail store.
I
Is there
make a
any
motion to
condition as
approve
to
it,
what
and I'll
can be
second.
sold online?
And this use is already permitted?
As long as it's legal.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve it.
Well, it's not legal. They want to
Right
make it legal,
now-
I guess.
Right now,
What they sell.
retail
What they
sales.
sell.
Oh, what they sell, yeah.
Right now, retail sales are not allowed in any residential office areas unless they're accessory to like a hotel and you have a little convenience store inside the hotel. So that's why they're accessory uses to something else, right? So they don't get to exist on their own. This, obviously, you don't want to have your residential office district to be overrun by retail, which is a higher price per square foot, if that makes sense, where the residential office district, because it's usually office space, is usually going for a lower price per square foot, right? So the smaller operations are trying to look for places where they're getting more bang for the buck, right?
An additional parking.
Additional
Correct,
parking.
correct. So you have parking issues, you have foot traffic issues, you have, you're creating a foot traffic situation for the neighbors that is not advisable because now you're eating into their, their infrastructure as well. So it's not a good thing to like just open your residential office district to retail.
What is a residential office?
155th,
It's-
155th Street where the dentist's office are, where.
Attorneys.
between
Attorney's
82nd
office.
Avenue and 87th
And
Avenue.
That's a
those are-
residential
are
office
there
district.
houses there?
No,
No,
No.
like that area,
There
155th,
could
where you
be,
have
but there
Royal
isn't.
Oaks on this side, and then you have the offices.
Uh-huh, yes.
And then 154, that's the residential office district. That's one of them.
We don't have any residences in any of our residential office districts at this point. There could be, but there isn't. Mostly what we have is hotels, because hotels are also allowed in residential office districts, and a lot of office,
I think
a
that
lot of
area
office
there,
space.
Susan, is safe. I don't think we can build anything else in
No.
there. It's pretty crowded.
And we have great parking in that area.
Just
Yeah,
to,
you park in the middle of the street.
let me tell you, from a fire rescue standpoint, you can talk to
No,
the
it's a hard-
firefighters.
it's a
The
hard-
firefighters are super frustrated. Do they still have the dialysis center there as well?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest issues there with parking. People park in the street, and then fire rescue can't get into the dialysis center. I'm okay with this the way it is. If it's by appointment only, I'm fine with it.
So there's a motion on the floor to approve and a second as well.
Okay, so calling the roll for the online sales showroom ordinance as it was presented for item 6D. Motion by De La Seria and seconded by Senra. Board Member Leoncio.
No.
Board Member Cruz is absent. Board Member De La Seria.
Yes?
Board Member Julia.
Yes.
Vice Chair Rodriguez.
Yes.
And Chairman Senra.
Yes.
The motion passes.
He wanted to say
All right, so, no other issues to discuss this evening? So I hereby adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Dale martillo.
I didn't want to be mean, sir.
Oye, ¿no le dieron un gamo?
Todo el mundo pasó. Mira, todavía
Te quita para la...
todavía
No, una
está-
noche sí creo que te dieron un gamo.
porque no se dio por vencido. Me va a coger y me va a ahorcar cuando vaya saliendo. Me va a coger y me va a ahorcar cuando vaya saliendo.